Hello there, and welcome everyone to our Tuesdays at 10 with Marty and Jen. I am Marty Winkler, President and CEO of IndigoMartini.com, where I share quantum wellness things like the patches, of course, energy healing through body code, emotion code, essential oils, and some other cool things. So before we get started, I am going to share the disclaimer that what we're sharing today is for informational and educational purposes only. It is not intended to prevent, treat, diagnose, or cure any disease or health issue that you may be experiencing. If you have health questions or concerns, please contact your healthcare provider. There we go. Okay, so today we are going to be talking about brain fog and brain issues, and we are going to be, of course, discussing briefly X39 because X39 is for everything all the time. And we're going to be covering a bit about Carnosine, the Carnosine patches today, and Eon, how they work together with X39. And then also I'm going to go into some essential oils that are really helpful for brain fog, brain issues, etc. So Jen, are you ready to get us going?
Absolutely.
Okay.
All right. I'm putting my patches on here. I am Jen Jordan. I have Nurse Jen Jordan Health and Wellness Ministry. And what I do with that is I take DNA and scan it on my wonderful machine, and it reads the frequency of the DNA. So it's for those people who have already been doing all the things. They've already been through Western medicine, they've already been through functional medicine, and they're still not getting their answers. And so that's what I can do in a nutshell, is get the turn the stones over, right, of the hidden little pieces. And we can put our website, Marty's website and my website, in the chat for those that might need that. And moving forward here, as usual, we're going to talk about our wonderful patch X39. This is LifeWave's signature patch, and it was developed in 2018. Okay, so those of you that might be watching this on a rewatch, X39 comes from LifeWave. So LifeWave is a 20-year-old company that started out originally creating photobiomodulation technology to increase the energy and stamina for our Navy SEALs. And after that, between then and now, there have been 11 total patches created by our wonderful inventor, CEO David Schmidt. And for those of you on here that are on our Quantum Wellness Facebook group, or Quantum Warriors, whatever we are, Wellness Warriors, please go in there and look for a video that I posted over the weekend. It is a great way to get to know David Schmidt a little bit better. So I highly encourage you to do that. Because what made me say yes to this company originally was that I think I really said yes to David Schmidt, because this was introduced to me over 6 months before I started actually using it. And then it wasn't until I saw a video very similar to the one I just posted that really helped me get to know the intention from David Schmidt behind developing this kind of a technology to really, I look at it as a save humanity. Because if we have our health, we have our wealth. If we have our health, we have everything. If we have our health, we have our power. And so I really encourage you to go in there. I do apologize I do say to start the video at about the 8-minute mark, however, because I found myself a little bit frustrated with the interviewer. My brain works faster and I wanted her to go faster. So I just be patient with her to be able to hear David's message. Okay, so those are for everybody on here that is on that group. And if not, we can figure out how to get you the link. All right, let's talk back about X39. So as I said before, X39 is our flagship patch. And how this is done is every single day, you peel this off, you put it somewhere on your body. There are specific points, and Marty and I can help you with that. And how this technology works is my own infrared light that I am releasing from my body as a light being. Okay, for those of you that might be, everyone on here now, I think understands this technology in our bodies. However, those that might be watching later, we're light beings. What does that mean? We emit infrared light. This is how we have the technology to be able to see people at night with night vision goggles. So we're constantly releasing this light. When we release this light, it hits the patch and it creates a certain pattern and frequency that goes back into our body, triggering a peptide called GHQ copper peptide. And what is in the literature from here to eternity is that that particular peptide stimulates the production of stem cells and wakes up dormant stem cells. Okay, stem cells are kind of becoming a buzzword. There are a couple companies out there that I've noticed right now, or at least one in particular, making a liposomal GHQ copper peptide, knowing people are grabbing onto the idea, well, okay, we're knowing that that stimulates the production of stem cells. Okay, now we have a 20-year patent on this patch, so no one else can do this, until and then, and who knows what else David Schmidt will have developed by then. And so people are trying to kind of get on board now. Stem cells. So why would people want stem cells? And I'm sure that people have had experiences with their friends or themselves or someone they know that has been considering stem cell injections for pain. Typically is how they're used, is for pain. And what that entails is going out of the country to have someone else's DNA stem cells injected into your body to help heal whatever that is that's needing that healing, whether it's a joint or the back, whatever that is, because that's what stem cells do. All right, so what they do is they know when they're in an area where there's inflammation, needs to be healed, then they rebuild the tissues. Stem cells are what are called pluripotent. They can go anywhere in the body, repair, grow, all the things. Okay, so we would like to have more stem cells now than we had when we were younger, because what happens is as we age, our stem cells decline. So as a newborn, we have an exorbitant amount of stem cells. And particularly that first year of growth, I mean, it's just exponential off the charts. Okay. And that is why the babies, like their skin just glows and they fall down and they're like, yeah, whatever, that just happened. Because they have all these stem cells they're repairing. Well, by the time we're 60, or excuse me, let me go over here. Like by the time we're 35 in here, we lost 50% of our stem cell production. Okay. And then by the time we're 60, we've lost about nearly 90% of our stem cells. So you can see here, okay, this stem cell decline. What else follows this curve here? Our health, our well-being, our joint health, our brain health, disease onset. This is what people would call aging, but what it's really called is stem cell decline. So our declining stem cells in our body as we get older is really what we define or call aging. Okay. Now, here's the thing. This can be reversed. Now, thanks to David Schmidt developing this technology, using our own light to stimulate our own stem cells in our body, we can reverse this process and stop it. I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing this here. And so it's very simple. This patch gets applied. Let's say like 8 a.m., 9 a.m., it depends. It doesn't matter. It's on 12 hours a day. Is that 8 a.m. for you and 8 p.m.? Is that 11 a.m. to 11 p.m.? Doesn't matter. 12 hours on, 12 hours off. It's a very easy to do this. It's every single day. So when you take it off at the end of that 12 hours, you toss it in the garbage can, or there's a little bit of oomph left in it. You can put it on a healthy pet. We recommend, if it's not a healthy pet, that you use fresh patches, and Marty and I will do something on that sometime. What do you think, Marty? We'll do something for pets someday. And then the next day you do it again. Now, how does this compare, right? Is there any comparison to flying out of the country, having foreign DNA injected into our body, high risk of rejecting that? There's only a 30% efficacy rate of stem cell injections actually being effective. And then there's that thing that bugs me in the back of my mind is we're introducing a foreign DNA. Okay, so anything introduced into our body that's foreign, our body wants to set up an attack. And I think it could really set the stage up potentially for autoimmune. So this is very safe. We do this. Okay. So what's the process of this? There's a lot of people that think that, oh, I put the patch on, I didn't feel anything. Please support your people and set their mind, help them with their mindset about this. We are in a one and done society. I got a boo-boo. I have something that hurts. I'm going to take an Advil. Oh, so much better. Pain's gone. So there are so many people that all they know on how to heal the body is just to stop pain or take a medication that stops the problem, whether it's a heart rate firing wrong. Oh, it's fixed. It's not fixed. It has a Band-Aid. Okay. So for people starting this, give it time. I just talked about how it's going to build stem cells and it's going to wake up your dormant stem cells. It's not going to happen in a day. It's not one and done modern medicine, not. So I want to share with you here. So what happens in the first few days of applying this patch? Well, up to 4,000 genes begin to reset. It does work that fast. Do you think you're going to feel your genes starting to reset? Okay, if you can, I want to meet you because we can talk about crazy things together then if you can feel that. Sounds fun. You don't necessarily feel your blood pumping through your body unless you just ran up a hill all of a sudden. Okay. You don't feel all the micro enzymatic processes going through the body so that you can digest food and your heart beats and all of that. You don't feel that. And I just really want to drive this home because it's very sad to me, the handful of clients I've had that are on it for 3 weeks. I don't feel anything. This isn't working. I'm like, it's just frustrating to me because this is basically closest thing to a miracle people are going to have. Okay, so after about 6 weeks of use, the stem cell army is recruited. They're ready to go. They're going to go to the brain. Let's do the brain. So talking about brain fog today. They're like, ooh, we see some things going on up in the brain. There's some inflammation up there. There's some things not working so well. Let's go to the brain and work on that first. And so those pluripotent stem cells that I mentioned the name before will march on into the brain and they will do the healing, the repair, the rebuild. Also, collagen. We talked about collagen a few weeks ago. Collagen is starting to be created in an exorbitant amount. We need collagen everywhere in our body. We have it everywhere. Okay. So that's what's going to start to be produced as well to support our brain. I'm just going to use the brain as an example since that's our topic today. And so that's when things start to go to work. You're probably not feeling it yet. There are people that will say, wow, I have more energy, or I feel a little bit different, or I am starting to sleep better. You will have those folks. Okay. Around the 6-week mark of wearing these patches 12 hours a day, every single day, that is when there's a significant amount of brain balancing starting to happen there. So if someone had a neurotransmitter that was out of whack and it was causing them to not be able to sleep, or their hormone levels were not balanced and that was affecting sleep, or they're depressed, or they have anxiety, due to imbalances in the hypothalamus pituitary adrenal axis, that is all going to start to balance. So people will really start to notice that. So you will notice that by about the 6-week mark as the brain fog does start to lift. And thankfully we're talking about brain fog today. Around the 3-month mark is when the collagen production in the body is starting to become very noticeable. That's like, hey, Susie, you look a little more glowy. What are you doing differently? There are people that have reported in here that their friends have accused them of having Botox when they have not had Botox. Because if someone's using this type of a technology that is, it's non-transdermal, there's nothing on here, no medications, we're using light to heal our bodies, they're probably not doing Botox, right? Because they're thinking, I want to do this naturally and help my own body be able to repair itself. So that's when we're seeing those types of outward physical changes with the collagen. And then within 6 months, and this is really critical, this is where we start to see a large reduction in cardiovascular age and function. So every 6 weeks of use of the X39 patch, we see a documented reverse in age of that system and repair by 8 weeks. This is cumulative. Okay, I've mentioned before, that is how I was able to reverse a cardiac arrhythmia that I developed after COVID, because it was making my heart younger, and repairing it. And so that's the function of that, about how that works. Okay, Marty, did I hit everything? There's usually something I miss.
No, I think that's great. Can you talk a little bit about how long is somebody going to have to wear these patches? Is this like they have to wear these forever, or what do you suggest?
Forever and forever, amen. That song. Here's what we recommend. So if you're just curious, like, try it out. Let's see how it is. Let's see if my hair looks better. If I start getting accused of, using Botox. Then we're looking at 1 month for every decade of life. Okay. That's a pretty good place to start, to see some minor shifts, changes, how you feel. A lot of people see a lot of things in that time. If you have a diagnosis of some kind, and as Marty mentioned in the beginning, we can't talk about any particular diagnosis, however, then we're looking at least 12 to 18 months of use, because that is a lot of unpacking and unraveling of the damage that's done, particularly say your diagnosis that is has affected the central nervous system. Okay, we got to get in there and change all those neuronal cells. We got to the old ones die, and the new new and improved recruits come on board. That takes a long time, particularly when we have at least 30 trillion cells in our body to repair. There's a variable amount of number, but it's at least 30 trillion cells. So that's my recommendation there. A lot of people will start to become impatient around, maybe around the 9-month mark. Okay, I'm not really noticing anything, or maybe around the year mark. And so many people have had their shift, their change, their labs come back, negative now for something, in that month 13 to, maybe 13 to 18. So it's important to hang on. People get hung up on the cost, which if you look at the big picture of things, how much people are spending on functional medicine doctors, love functional medicine doctors, not saying that, it's expensive, daily copious amounts of supplementations, going to this specialist, that specialist, that adds up way more than putting on this patch every day. Here's the problem. You're putting on the patch and it's a passive process. So the person's like, I can't measure this. I can't quantify it. I can't number how many vitamins I put in my mouth today that makes me feel like I'm helping myself. So they can become a little bit impatient, with the amount they're paying every month. With, I would say, Marty, someone with a pretty significant diagnosis might be averaging 300 to 350 a month on that. Maybe that's too high.
No, that's probably too low.
No, after they've come in and now they're just on maintenance.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought I was hearing supplements that they're spending on now, is hundreds and sometimes thousands of dollars a month on just supplements. But yeah, once they come in and start using the patches and get things dialed back in, 350 would be that would be high on the patch.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So I like people to put that in perspective, because they're like, I'm spending $300 a month and I'm not seeing anything. I'm not doing anything, but everything's happening behind the scenes. Okay. I've been having to have these conversations about that lately. Okay. And someone that's coming in just to play, they might be looking around $149 a month or less than that. If they just want to play with the X39, which can do lots of things, it just takes a little longer by itself, $99 a month. Okay. And then you could probably ditch within a few months, start ditching a lot of your supplements. Okay. I just kind of went off a different tangent on that, but.
No, and I think that's good. Set the expectation up front. And I tell people now, when they are saying that you want to get started on the patches, I tell them up front, you need to commit to at least 6 months and understand that, this is approximately the cost. And I think when you first get started, it's a little bit more because they give you discounts when you buy multiples of, all the Y-age sleeves of patches, and that's the carnosine, glutathione, and eon. Those get down to $49.99 or $49.95 a sleeve. So when you buy those in multiples, X39 plan on, that's $99 a month, $100 a month. But and depending on how they use it, and like glutathione, most people are not going to wear that every day. So they're going to be able to stretch their budget a little bit. With that. But again, the point is getting the results from the patches. So you got to commit to, you're putting in the time, the effort, and you're putting in the money. And what I've also found too is people will always find money for things that matter to them. So if your health is something that matters to you, you're going to figure it out. You'll find the money some way, and, commit to your health. It's an investment, right? And Chuck says you might position it as $5 a day. Yeah, that's a great way to look at it. That's like a Starbucks coffee. Well, Starbucks is probably more than that now, but something like that. Put it in a daily perspective if that's how they relate to things. But again, and once they get over that hump and get the majority of their things turned around, it is more of a maintenance thing. So
I like that. I'm gonna steal that one. That it's $5 a day to enhance your well-being. Yeah, $5 to enhance well-being. I love that. Thanks, Chuck. We'll give you royalties. Yeah, I think it's important. I like that, to position it that way. And I personally was spending hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of dollars on supplements that were just like kind of helping a little bit. So it's really good to put in that perspective. Okay, I'm gonna go out on a snarky line here. I love this. I might have already shared this, I don't remember, but I was reading something where people were talking about the cost of ivermectin being over the counter now and available in Idaho or something. They're like, oh, it's $1 a pill, And someone piped in, it said, so expensive. And basically someone piped in and said, well, how expensive? Is it more expensive than a funeral? And I'm like, I just could not stop laughing. So if you want to pull out the snark card, ask if the X39 is more expensive than it is to have a funeral. Okay, that's bad. But anyway, okay. I love it. I have a hidden funny sense of humor that no one really knows about. Okay. So what are we doing?
We're doing brain fog. Brain fog, Jen. Okay.
What?
You may or may not be affected by brain fog, but we're going to be talking about that and our results with that.
I just did that. I just did that on purpose.
Yeah, right.
I did.
Sure you did. It's fine. No, and it's so back on your comment before we move on, when people say, oh, these patches are so expensive. And I'm like, what compared to what? Stem cell injections that start at $5,000 and go up to $15,000 that maybe last for 90 days. So, and yeah, that's a little snarky, but at some point, I am sick of beating around the bush with people. Just be straight up, Yeah. If you feel that this is too expensive, then maybe it's not the right time for you, or this is not the right thing for you. That's fine.
Yeah.
This isn't for everybody. This is for people that want to do something, different, understand the principles of frequency, light, things like that, or even are curious about it. They don't have to know everything, but be open to doing something different than the standard traditional Western stuff that we have to deal with.
Yeah.
This is cutting edge,
I think we're at a little breaking point. I think we're at a tipping point, not a breaking point, but a tipping point right now, where that's where I'm at too. Like I'm ready to support those people that are all in, curious, done with all the other things, and are like, yeah, let's do this. Let's go down this together. I'm not going to drag people along anymore in their health. I'm like done with that. I'm declaring that here on this particular one. So those that want to like go arm in arm with me down this road, I'm ready. I'm ready and I'm here.
Love that. And so Monica, real quick was saying 6 months before making change. Okay, so asking about before you start dumping supplements or like maybe eliminating some of them. A lot of supplements that people take are redundant. Let's be honest. They're taking, you know, maybe a multivitamin, but then they're also taking supplemental B's, D, etc. So there's different things that you can start working on. Jen did a video on that actually a few weeks ago, right? She did a post on these are all the supplements she was taking before, and now she doesn't feel the need for them. Again, muscle testing is going to be a really big way to work through that as you feel it. And you'll feel things changing in your body. So I would just kind of pay attention to that. Maybe 6 months, at the 6-month marker is when you can start questioning things, but everybody's different. So just kind of trust your body, listen to your body, and go from there.
Yeah. And I just want to speak to that. 2 things there. A lot of the times, Monica, what I have found with my clients, people I'm working with, is they start forgetting to take their thing for energy. They start forgetting to take their thing for sleep. They're like, oh, I'm taking that in a few days. And that's the same thing that I've experienced with people with pharmaceuticals too. If they're on an antidepressant or anti-anxiety medication, they're like, oh, which we need to be careful with that because of the serotonin balancing. But they like, oh my gosh, I forgot to take my anxiety med for 4 days. So it just sort of is this attrition, right, process that happened for me. It was a very organic attrition. I just like, oh, I'm not even taking those anymore. Wow, it wasn't purposeful. But if you are wondering, well, if you're wondering, you can scan with me and we can tell you exactly what deficiencies you have and then only focus on those. And they're usually very few. And the second part of that I wanted to speak to is that if people are taking so many supplements and they don't know if they actually need it. Okay. It just sounded like a good idea, or you were, prescribed this by, a nutritionist or whatever. And your body doesn't need it. If you get too much of something, then it actually throws off everything else. So the reason we have vitamins and minerals and these amino acids is because they are just the thing that gives the spark, to these coenzymatic processes that create energy in our body and our mitochondria. Well, if we're giving something that we don't need, and it's like inviting too many people to a party, right? They all get stuffed in the corners and they can't move and they don't function as well. Strange analogy, but whatever. And so oftentimes I think it's good for people, they can go off of everything and give their body a break. I'm not giving you medical advice here, and I don't want to overstep anyone's, meds or supplements they're on, and just kind of see how you feel, maybe tiptoe back in. Okay, little rant there, but I do talk to every single client I have about that. Over supplementing is not good for the body. It confuses the body. When you do that, you're asking it to do so many different things a day because people don't understand what supplements do. Okay, it's like putting too many engine parts on a car. It's just not going to work. Okay, I need to be done with my weird analogies and move on to physiology of brain fog.
Oh, I think that was really good. And I do want to address Chuck's comment. Yes, Chuck, this is for everyone, but not everyone's ready at whatever point we happen to cross paths with them. And sometimes people take a little bit longer, or they don't see the value yet. So that's kind of another conversation, and that can tie in with, with the business side of it. Yeah, absolutely. This is for everyone. They just aren't aware of it yet. So
honestly, I feel putting my 49 under my belly button. I honestly feel, Chuck, that if we put every single person in the United States on this patch, we would just end our healthcare crisis. I mean, there's going to be, it's not going to put your leg back on if it falls off or whatever. We do need that kind of medicine there. But I just believe it, also in giving education about food and lifestyle. It's very simple though. It's like, don't eat junk, walk around, touch the earth, put your patches on. It's not that hard.
Okay, on that note, now I think we are ready to move on. What do you
Okay.
Okay,
so I'm ready to go here. And just checking, Marty, that I'm all good.
I don't see any slides yet. Are you trying to share some?
I am. Okay. Where Where'd it go? Let me go back.
Okay, something's coming on the screen. There we go.
Okay.
There we go.
It's almost like can you hear me now? Okay. So we're talking about the physiology of brain fog. Now, I'm pretty sure I can confidently say that most everyone has experienced brain fog, and we talk about it. I have brain fog, but has anyone ever really wondered what does that even mean? Other than you can't remember why you walked in the room, or you just feel like kind of dull in the head and not as sharp. Okay, so that's kind of the typical thing that people talk about or describe brain fog. So what is this? So basically brain fog is not a diagnosis, right? I mean, that would be pretty funny. So Steve, general consensus today is you have brain fog. Okay, it's not in the ICD-10 database of diagnoses. Okay, so basically brain fog is a symptom of deeper imbalances in the body. So what are we going to see here? We're going to see poor concentration, mental fatigue, forgetfulness. Okay. And so I want to just kind of go back in here and unpack a little bit the roots behind this process. And this is I'm going to throw my glasses on here because this is a blurry slide to me. I'm not going to go into all the cytokine types and behaviors here, but basically what a cytokine is, it's something that is your body releases it in response to something, a threat of some kind, to create inflammation in the body. Okay, so that's what cytokines do. They create inflammation because at first, a little bit of inflammation is what our body needs for many other reasons that we're not going to go into here. And then what happens is these cytokines that are being produced by the body in response to some sort of a threat, they actually cross the blood-brain barrier. Okay, ideally, not very many things are supposed to get across the blood-brain barrier, but because of all the toxins and allergens, all the things, we actually have a leakier brain barrier now. So I want to just tell you on a little side note, anyone that's ever been told, yeah, you have a leaky gut, or you might have a leaky gut, 100% you have a leaky brain too. Okay. So when we get these cytokines, these inflammatory factors that are not supposed to be inside the brain, when they get over there, they start getting in the way of the neuronal signaling. Okay, so the neurons, the brain neurons, the brain cells, they fire off and they talk to each other and they deliver information, and that's how we function. Well, these are like, a bunch of cattle running in the road or something, and now we can't go. It's a disruption. It's basically like if you're trying to tune in a radio station back in the day. I have this dial here. And there's a lot of static in there, and then you can't hear. The message is very muffled. It'll kind of go in and out and you can't hear. Okay, that's what's happening in the brain when it's inflamed due to these cytokines. The other thing that happens here is that we start to have dysfunction in the mitochondria. Again, we have mitochondria. These are the powerhouses of the cells. Every single cell has mitochondria inside of it, and it is the engine. Okay, so you might have heard a lot of talk about mitochondria. An interesting little side note is, way back in, when in even caveman days, when we were dragging clubs around, these mitochondria were bacteria that lived outside of the body. So that's a talk for another day. Okay, so we need high amounts of what's called ATP produced in our brain for mental clarity. Now, ATP is something that, again, you heard me speak a little bit earlier about having certain nutrients available for these coenzymatic processes at the level of the mitochondria. Is what I'm talking about. Okay, so in order to get ATP, which is basically the gasoline for your body that's created in the mitochondria, and have it all functioning properly, you need the right amount of oil and gas and transmission fluid and all that stuff for this to work properly. So what happens when we're not receiving getting that ATP produced because of these enzymatic problems, then we start to get the mitochondria get tired. Okay, so your engine starts to go dug, 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 dug. It's chugging along now. Okay, so what does that mean? We have slowed thinking, memory lapses, and causes for this. Again, I just alluded a minute ago: toxins, chronic infections. Okay, so if we have a chronic bacteria infection hiding out somewhere in an organ, which again I can detect in like 6 minutes on my scan. Or it could be a fungal overgrowth, or it could be a virus in there. That's creating chronic inflammation, which is creating these cytokines I talked about at the beginning. Those are crossing in and through the blood-brain barrier and causing this. Okay, and then there's nutrient deficiencies. So yeah, even though everybody's usually over supplementing, they can actually still have a nutrient deficiencies. And that's another reason why I like my scan too, because it just tells me exactly what the body is lacking and needing support. All right, when we have blood sugar swings, okay, so if our pancreas is misbehaving, all right, that's what the X39 is going to help the pancreatic function as well. Same with SP6. You don't go into that today. The brain really needs a stable amount of glucose as its fuel. So it needs stable blood sugar. The brain is the biggest consumer of glucose in our entire body. When we have highs and lows in this, which are basically, again, going back to the pancreas misbehaving because, or, not properly sending out enough insulin, or we have insulin resistance at the level of our cells and our organs, then that's going to impair cognition. Okay, a lot of pre-signs for diabetes too, people might start noticing is more of this kind of brain fog, even before it could actually be captured in a lab. Okay, so what are we looking at? Irritability, low energy, and yes, you guessed it, fog. Okay. The other possibility for having brain fog, and this is where I love talking about neurotransmitters, is when we're having some neurotransmitter imbalances in the brain. So if you look over here at the picture, this is literally how our brain works. It's like a motherboard in here. And so if we have particular neurotransmitters, and neurotransmitters are also hormones, they're the same thing, such as low dopamine. We need dopamine, proper amounts of dopamine in order to be able to focus and stay motivated. So if you know someone that just can't pull themselves off the couch, they're not focusing on a thing, they have low motivation, we might want to start suspecting low dopamine levels here. And there's certain diseases and chronic stress situations that will deplete dopamine levels. Same with acetylcholine. Acetylcholine has oh my gosh, acetylcholine does so much. We don't want this imbalanced. Well, we don't want anything imbalanced, but particularly this has a lot of, does a lot of things in the body. So, but with this one in particular, we're looking at memory issues. And then in my case, or my experience and observations, we're also looking at those people that just can't get it together in the morning. They just can't get going, and they'll just plop back to bed. Okay, we're looking at low acetylcholine, and those are just really so you remember in Winnie the Pooh or whatever, Eeyore probably really was having a problem with dopamine acetylcholine. Okay, all right. So what causes these neurotransmitter imbalances? Okay, back to the gut, right? Talked about in the beginning, you got a leaky gut or some inflammation there. You got a leaky brain or inflammation in the brain. It's totally connected. Well, the gut is actually connected to all different kinds of axes: gut brain, gut lung, gut heart. So it's all about the gut. Low protein in the body. Okay, that doesn't necessarily mean just not eating enough protein. If you recall from our talk last week about the lymphatic system's delivering our proteins. So what if you're having problems with your lymphatic system, particularly the lymphatic system draining from your brain? You're not getting your proteins. Okay. Well, look, nutrient deficiencies. Okay. I spoke a little bit about the HPA axis dysregulation. What is that? Hypothalamus pituitary adrenal axis. Okay, this is how the hypothalamus in our old brain limbic system talks to the pituitary gland, which is responsible for releasing, hormones and a lot of other things, going back down and talking to the adrenals. When I scan people, you know, those that live here on Earth and been here for a while, they've got dysregulation. I would say 8 out of 10 have HPA axis dysregulation because it just, you know, we're born and it's like, you know, the start gun goes off and we're just running. Okay. And that's what's causing this chronic stress, which alters our cortisol production. We talked about that a couple weeks ago. This in and of itself is going to impact the memory because it's impacting the part of the brain called the hippocampus. Okay. And then it's also impacting the all opposite side of the brain. And that's the frontal lobe on focus. So HPA axis dysregulation affects the entire brain process. We're going to see mental sharpness declining under stress. I used to teach stress management to people, and I call that going into the monkey brain. Okay. All right. Oh, look, we talked about this. Okay, so leaky gut, leaky brain. Yeah, I don't think I need to go over this one again, but just your takeaway, gut health is absolutely critical to mental clarity. So 9 times out of 10 on my clients, we're starting with the gut. Well, we're clearing out all the heavy metals and junk and starting with the gut because I can't do anything with anywhere else of the body if the gut is inflamed. So the other piece of it here is that if we're not sleeping and we're not detoxing our brain, we're going to have higher risk for brain fog. So deep sleep. So here, okay, X39, I would say, you know, my clients that get back to me after being on X39 for 3-6 months are saying, oh my word, my sleep is so much better. So when we're sleeping deeply, and Marty mentioned the magical hours of 10 p.m. to 2 a.m. a couple weeks ago, that is actually a really important, it's a try for that. I try for it. It's hard for me. But 10 to 2 is when you're getting, that's the most impactful time on your health that you can be sleeping. Because what is that doing? Okay, going back to last week, we're activating the lymphatic system. Those of you that remember, the lymphatic system is the lymphatic part of our brain that's draining. We need to drain the junk off of our glial cells, off of our brain cells. Okay, so if they're sitting there in a cesspool of junk, do you think your brain's going to be functioning optimally? No. And then the other thing, this is critical, you guys. So if I'm scanning someone and I'm seeing Alzheimer's tendency come up for them, they probably have a lot of aluminum and a lot of fluoride driving to their brain. But the other thing I'm going to see is they're going to have high levels of beta amyloid. I see this right away on my scan, if it's applicable to that person. So if we are not sleeping deeply, and we're not activating this lymphatic drainage system, then we're not clearing what's called beta amyloid away from the brain. Beta amyloid is in high numbers in those who have Alzheimer's. Okay, and I can see it starting really early on people. So, all right. So again, poor sleep is mental fog, fatigue, poor memory. You all been there. You've probably all been there within the last 4 weeks. Okay, it's just life. So other triggers of brain fog. Anyone that's ever dealt with mold and mycotoxins is going to say the very first thing they notice is their energy went down and their brain just stopped functioning. Okay, this is a huge trigger of brain fog. Other things like viral infections, such as Epstein-Barr, Lyme, COVID, those are the ones I normally see here when I got summoned. These kind of hang out together, these infections with molds, they all love to hang out. And I'm going to see here a person was before really happy and perky and this and that, and all of a sudden they don't have energy, they're depressed, they're kind of losing their motivation there. So that will be a trigger of brain fog because these things here create a lot of inflammation in the body. When we're doing hormone shifts, like through menopause, and we see drops in estrogen and drops in progesterone, again, those are going to affect neurotransmitters as well. So it's important to do the things to keep these balanced. Okay, this can be just not having fragranced things in your house. Okay, I think we talked about that. You know, because any kind of artificial fragrance or anything like that in your house is going to affect your hormones. Okay, you know, even candles, if you have candles that you're burning, make sure that they're either soy or beeswax and have pure essential oils in them. Those will really mess you up. I had a recent experience lately where I was somewhere with artificial candle burning, and I've actually been dealing with a headache for a couple of days. Okay, histamines overload. That is, histamine affects the brain like you would not believe. It's wild. I love to talk about this. That's not the focus of our conversation today. Oh, look, nutrient deficiencies. And of course, medications will cause brain fog. Okay. Everyone has probably heard of someone, I'm on this medication. Now I can't really think clearly. But oh, it's totally worth it because now, my heart beats this way or something. I don't know. Okay. In summary, all right, if you have brain fog, that's not normal. It's your body crying for help. Something's out of balance. Is it inflammation in your gut? Is it a mitochondrial and hormone dysfunction? Is it a neurotransmitter or a blood sugar problem? If we get to that root cause, okay, the thing hidden under all the stones, then we can get our clarity back. Now, the X39 patch and the patches, if someone had serious amount of stuff going on here with their brain fog, and we were seeing a lot going on, that is what is going to start clearing up that function in the mitochondria and start improving that brain fog. That's why it's amazing what these can do when we get in there. Support the person nutritionally, that they're not eating the foods that are triggering them. We're getting them away from seed oils and preservatives and icky air, and we're just cleaning up their whole environment. It's getting on the ground, charging their cells. I won't go off on that because I love talking about charged our cells, or we're batteries, y'all. Okay. And you get you all those things and put the patches on, you're going to heal so quickly. So quickly. That's why Marty and I do these every week. We want to educate everybody on these processes so we can incorporate these shifts and health changes in the life while using the patches, so you can just be a rock star on these and heal very quickly. Okay, done.
Thank you, Jen. That was awesome. Great information.
Is your brain inflamed?
Great inflammation. There is a comment in the chat, if you could address that, but I'm going to go ahead because we are getting close to time here. I'm going to just go ahead and share my screen and share a few different things here, right? So what can we do about brain fog, right? Using the patches. So specifically, what I wanted to talk about or tie in was Carnosine patch, because it's known as the clarity patch, and it elevates the production of carnosine in the body, and it does so many different things. It's known for cardiovascular support and also brain support, focus, alertness, cognitive function, flexibility, balance, etc. So you can see some of the points on here too. Physical performance, it's another really good one for that. Cellular function, protects cells from oxidative stress. So oxidative stress, I want you to think about that as like rust. And you probably heard the term, if you rest, you rust. And that's the thing, especially as you get older, you got to keep moving. You got to keep things flowing through your body, so your body can help detox the oxidative things in there from oxidative stress and chemicals and all the things we're exposed to all the time. So carnosine helps move that through. So it specifically also supports organ and tissue health and function. So those of you who are familiar with the patch manual by Dr. Jen O'Sullivan, I'm going to read just one little quote from one of the studies that she cites in this information under carnosine. It says that the carnosine patch worn for 12 hours daily on alternate days. So that's like every other day you can use carnosine. And that was one of the studies that they had done here. It produced a very significant improvement in the physiologic function status of pancreas, liver, the right kidney, left and right adrenals, hypothalamus, pituitary, and thyroid glands. So this patch has significant impact on very specific organs and glands and the HPA axis, like Jen was talking about. So carnosine is really going to help with that. The two studies that are shown here The first one is specific to how it impacted organs, and the second one, Carnosine Study 2, was on mental decline and how the carnosine patch helped offset that. And what I also thought was interesting is there's two amino acids that the carnosine patch impacts. And one is alanine, and that's a non-essential amino acid, which means our body produces that. And so specifically to that, this patch helps provide energy for muscles, brain, and central nervous system, strengthens our immune system, supports stamina by removing lactic acid, promotes growth of hair and nails, and then deficiency diseases associated with low alanine are loss of muscle mass, fatigue, brain fatigue, fog, right? Loss of endurance and strength. So that's the alanine, non-essential. But the other one that carnosine patch impacts is histidine for repair. And histidine is an essential amino acid, which means our body does not produce it. So we have to get it from food and other sources. So what histidine does is it supports growth, tissue repair, makes blood cells, protects nerve cells. It's used to make histamine, one of Jen's favorite things to talk about. Histamine supports our immune function, digestion, and improves sleep. So there's the tie-in, the brain-gut connection. And that goes with so many things. Like Jen said, if you have a leaky gut, you have a leaky brain. And neurotransmitters, we associate them with being produced in the brain. They're also produced in the gut. So that's where the dopamine, serotonin, and all the other feel-good, happy hormones and neurotransmitters come in as well, okay? So if you are low in histidine, some deficiency diseases include anemia, slow wound healing, poor cognition and memory, and also arthritis. So I thought that was super interesting. That again, if you don't have this patch manual, I strongly urge you to get it because there's so much great information in here. Okay. Also, carnosine, I like this, may improve skin appearance. It firms, tones, and supports elasticity, which is also in reference to collagen. So there you go. And the bomb.com is using X39 Eon and carnosine together because X39 and Eon, dynamic duo, reduces the inflammation so the stem cells can take off. And then the carnosine slides in there and helps with all the tissue repair and function. So an easy way to think about this is you've probably heard of carne asada, which is a Mexican type of meat. So carne refers to flesh, right? So carnosine, flesh. So any part of our flesh, organs, glands, etc., is going to be improved with the carnosine patch. Okay. Also, I wanted to share essential oils for brain support. Number one is going to be frankincense. Frankincense is, if you could only use one oil ever, it's going to be frankincense because it helps with so many things beyond brain support, which is what we're talking about here. But specifically on that brain injury, if somebody has had a stroke, that's a brain injury. Or if they've been in a car accident, hit their head, and there's inflammation, etc. Brain injury, frankincense is going to be your number one. And you're going to use it internally, a couple drops under your tongue. I got my frankincense right here, okay? I do this every morning. I'm not joking. Every morning, it's part of my routine. It's a super, it takes you 5 seconds to put 2 drops of frankincense under your tongue. I use it for preventative because along with brain support, it has anti-cancer properties. It's good for anti-aging, skin, all the things. But you can see specifically the different things it is used for. Also Parkinson's, Alzheimer's, dementia, seizures. There you go. Emotionally, frankincense is the oil of truth and helps foster a connection to father. And that can be your literal father, or if you are a father, you with your children. Also with spiritual connection, right, to Heavenly Father. It is the oil that helps connect all those different things. It's great for meditation, helps you feel enlightened, loved, etc. Okay, and then I put on there How you can use this. Back of the neck, on temples. So frankincense is one you're going to want to use topically or internally. We also have frankincense soft gels now too, that with doTERRA that you can get to really get it in there. Because it is on the higher priced point, this is probably not one that you're going to diffuse. Just letting you know, you can, but getting it topically on you or in you is probably going to have the best benefits. Okay, next oil I wanted to talk about was Copaiba, which is a tree oil, and it is very good for inflammation, nervous system support, headaches, migraines, anxiety. It is the oil of unveiling on the emotional side. So it helps us release shame, guilt, regrets, anything, from our past. And yes, these things do have their place, but living there is not serving you, right? You feel the feelings, address them, make corrections where you need to, and move on. So Copaiba helps you do that, and it gives you clarity and purpose to be able to move forward. Self-awareness, so you can make the changes that you need to make, and also feeling that you are worthy, getting rid of those feelings of I'm not good enough, I can't do this or whatever. It helps you clear that. Copaiba is safe for internal use, couple drops under the tongue. We also have Copaiba soft gels to get it in there. It's really good for nervous system support and, overall inflammation and pain relief as well. Copaiba is interesting because it has naturally about 55% of BCP, which is beta carotene, in it, versus CBD oil that naturally has 35% beta carotene. So it's stronger than CBD, but none of the THC in that. So if that's something that you're looking for is pain relief and nervous system support, Copaiba might be a great oil for you. Next one I want to talk about is Balance Grounding Blend. Okay, it helps with, again, brain injury, convulsions, Parkinson's, seizures, stroke. Okay, I have some experience with some of my clients that could feel like a seizure coming on. So they grabbed their balance, got it on them, all over their head, on their temples, etc., and it stopped it. It cooled it down. Great place to use this also. I didn't put this on here, but bottoms of your feet. I do this. This is another part of my daily routine. A couple drops on the bottom of each foot every day, just to help things stay even keel. Then helps calm the chaos and stress. On the emotional side, it is, of course, the oil of grounding. It dispels scattered and disconnected thoughts, provides stability, inner strength, and commitment. So this is one that you would use topically or in a diffuser. It's not recommended for internal use because it's mostly trees and roots, not things we normally eat. However, I have tasted it and it's fine. We'll just leave it at that. But we urge people to use it according to directions on the label. Okay. Last oil I want to share is spikenard. Okay, and it only comes in the little 5 ml bottle. It's a very powerful oil, not one of my favorite scents, but it doesn't matter because it's medicine. To me, it kind of smells like dirty socks. It's a very earthy scent. Okay, those of you who are familiar with the scriptures or in Bible times, it's spoken of as nard. And they used it in cooking as an aphrodisiac. This was one that was used on Jesus to prepare him for burial. So this is the actual spikenard oil. Okay, it's very helpful for brain issues, brain injuries, seizures, convulsions, insomnia, stress. And one of the things that's really interesting about spikenard, it is one of the only oils that when you use it, it lights up every portion of the brain. It has the compounds in it just are super helpful for the brain. One of the best ways to take advantage of that is on your thumb, you're going to put a drop or two of spikenard. You're going to press it to the roof of your mouth. There's a little soft spot back there. Press it there and hold it for a couple of seconds because that is very closely linked to the base of your brain. So that's a really good way to get oils into working quickly for brain support. Frankincense, people do that also with frankincense, and Melissa for calming. That's just a unique place to use the oils, but it's really effective as well. Spikenard is the oil of gratitude. It releases resistance, victim mentality, anger. And I thought this was interesting. Expecting bad luck, that's tied in with victim mentality. Oh, I never win. Nothing ever goes right for me. Things like that. Spikenard helps break that, and it promotes feelings of gratitude, acceptance, and peace. And there I showed how to use it, put it on your thumb pad, press it to the, I should have said roof of your mouth, not the top of your mouth. So there you go. I'm going to stop sharing. And any questions on that, or are we good, Jen?
I think we look good over here. I'm over here. I'm doing shots over here. I'm like, oh yeah, frankincense. I love all this stuff. And basil. Yeah, you reminded me. I'm like, oh yeah. I like to party.
Get the oils in you, on you, around you. They're only going to help. Okay, I'm going to stop the recording here. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Jen. That was awesome.
Yeah, thank you. That was